All right, for today's video review, we're going to be taking a look at the Transformers War for Cybertron Galactic Odyssey Collection Botropolis Rescue Mission set. Quite a lengthy title there. This is another one of those Amazon exclusive sets. And this one, it pays homage to a few different things. For one, it gives us a couple more members of the Astro Squad. We got the Astro Squad here with Fuser, or Phaser as he was originally called, and Blastmaster, who are the Micromaster combiners from G1. But that original set had 6 members to it, and 2 more of those members were Moonrock and Missile Master. So a repaint of the I believe it was Siege. It was released in both Siege and Earthrise, but Direct Hit and Power Punch. Another set of combiners, but these guys are Decepticons and these ones are Autobots. Also included in the set is this piece here. We have a repaint of the again Fuser and Blastmaster. In this set, they're characterized as the same characters, so they just call them Fuser and Blastmaster again. But this deco, where this actually comes from, so I'll put some images up on the screen so you can kind of look along with what I'm talking about here. But in Japan, there were a bunch of Japanese exclusive Micromaster combiners that had like 6 members that would actually turn into a full robot instead of just like these kind of Micromaster combiners. And there was one called Six Wing, and one of the components of that turned into a shuttle, which actually looked quite a bit like this shuttle, and that character's name was Raker. And later, that particular Micromaster, Raker, was redecoed into a fellow called Stormjet, whose color scheme is what this is homage. So kind of a roundabout way there, but basically an homage to a repaint of a Micromaster that looks like the original version of the ones that these guys are a repaint of. Kind of complicated, but it's a neat homage. And since I prefer to consider these guys different characters, on my shelf, like in ones that could live alongside the original Fuser or Phaser and Blastmaster, personally, I choose to call these guys Stormjet, which is the one that the paint job's homaging, and Raker, who is the one that Stormjet was a repaint of. So I choose to have it be Stormjet and Raker, but officially it's just a new color scheme for Fuser and Blastmaster. And they come with this piece, which at first glance you might think is a new piece exclusive to the set, but it is actually a repaint of the missile piece that came with Earthrise Double Dealer. Separates, same exact functionality, just a different color scheme now with the Autobot thing going on. But yeah, that's where this comes from. And then the base itself, which is of course made up of, well, several components, but 2 characters, who the set has characterized as Ironworks and Overair. So Ironworks we'll talk about first. They've well, actually, you know what? We'll get on to they're a little weird, all right, because Ironworks is just a straight up repaint of Earthrise Ironworks, and they're both Autobots, so I guess they're characterizing them as the same character. I'm not going to bother putting these guys into their base modes just because this video is going to be long already, and I don't want to go through all the transformations multiple times. But yeah, he's just a repaint of Ironworks here. And then Overair is a repaint of the other Micromaster base guy. Gosh, what's his name? Airwave. Sorry, lots of names to get straight here. But the reason they didn't just use his name over again is because Airwave is not an Autobot, he's a Decepticon. And Overair, the name for this guy actually comes from a few different places. Like more recently, the Overair name has been used for a Micromaster. If you remember, they did that Target exclusive Micromaster 10 pack that had a bunch of Micromasters that were just repaints of ones we'd already gotten in Siege. And they had Iron Tread, who was basically, so in the original, this is going to get convoluted, bear with me, but in the original, like, Generation 1 versions of the toys, the Micromaster bases or stations, I can't remember which they were called particularly, but they didn't actually have robot modes. They just transformed from base to a different base. So they didn't have names. But they each came with a Micromaster partner, and the construction base came with Ironworks, who transformed into a little truck. And because they were making the Earthrise Ironworks, when they released a Micromaster that homaged that original Ironworks in the 10-pack, he was called Iron Tread. And similarly, because they were planning to do Airwave, when they released the Micromaster that was homaging the original little jet Micromaster that came with the airport station, instead of calling him Airwave, they called him Overair. And that is where that name comes from more recently. But also what's really interesting is in the original Japanese exclusive releases of the Micromaster stations, which were more or less the same exact figures with the same paint decos, they actually had Airwave and Grease Pit. Like, those stations stayed exactly the same, except instead of being Decepticons, all 4 of them were Autobots. So Ironworks, Airwave, Grease Pit, and Hot House were all Autobots, whereas in the American release, just Ironworks and Hot House are the Autobots. So the here we're getting there, I promise. Then we'll actually look at the figures themselves. The Japanese names for, so both Ironworks and Hot House, the Autobots, had the exact same names as they did in the American toy line, but since Airwave and Grease Pit were Autobots in the Japanese one, they were called Glass Pit and Overair. So that is where Overair comes from. Overair being Airwave, being an Autobot. That is what this version is supposed to be. Obviously, the paint scheme of it is not really in reference to Airwave or the original Japanese Overair, because they weren't going to just release the figure the same like color scheme and then give it a different insignia. That would be silly. What the color scheme for these guys is actually homaging is the original, both in the Japanese version and the American version, again, same paint scheme, the rocket base, which, if you have Siege Omega Supreme, he was kind of an homage to the rocket base as well, because he came with the Micromaster partner Countdown, and Countdown originally came with the original rocket base, and that is what this whole set is basically homaging, is the Generation 1 rocket base Micromaster set. Okay, so the last thing I want to talk about with that is, again, I mentioned how, I had kind of like a different headcanon names for these two guys. Since Overair is fine, I don't have the Micromaster 10-pack, so I'm fine with him being Overair as opposed to Airwave, but I can't have him still be Ironworks, so I decided to take another name from the Japanese zone base guys, which is what the Japanese version was called. And in Japan, the Countdown character that came with the rocket base was named Moon Raider, and I think that's a really cool name. And this whole set is homaging the rocket base. So this component I personally prefer to refer to as Moon Raider. Anyway, for the sake of this review, I'm gonna call them by their official names, but I don't know. I just thought that was kind of an interesting origin of all of these guys, and yeah. There's so okay, I'm gonna show off the figures themselves actually now. Sorry for all of that. Hopefully it's interesting information to some of you, and if not, that's okay. Yeah, I'm having a good time. But here's what the base looks like all together. This is just one configuration of it. Obviously, if you have any of these Siege or Earthrise, or I guess they're all Earthrise, but any of the Earthrise Micromaster station guys, you can split them up into a bunch of different parts and make lots of different configurations. This is the one that's showed in the product imagery, and there's a few other bases that they showed the individuals turning into, which are basically just the same as Ironworks and Airwaves. I'm not going to bother showing off all of those. I'm going to just go straight to robot modes with these guys, and then just for the sake of time, and then I'll cut to some images and talking for a bit later at the end with some sort of custom ideas for bases that in my opinion, kind of homage the original rocket base a little bit better. But yeah, this is what the set looks like overall. I think they look great with Countdown. I mean, he's, you know, the one who's supposed to kind of actually go with this set. Of course, we got him earlier with Omega Supreme, but it's it's a really nice looking set, and I certainly like having all these guys together. I love to have Missile Master and Moonrock. These guys are a this is a great mold. Direct Hit and Power Punch was my favorite molds, and I still like that color scheme better. But you know, once I started looking into some original MicroMasters, I was like, oh, that mold would work really well as Missile Master and Moonrock. And I was really hoping that they would do it. And then like the set released before these guys had a version of this mold in yellow, which I didn't get because I wasn't really interested in that set, as Wheelblaze, and I can't remember his partner, and I was kind of disappointed because I really thought they were going to do Missile Master and Moonrock, and then lo and behold, the next set released, we have them, and they actually do a bit of remolding here. We had the original piece here with Direct Hit and Power Punch had this gun, and they have this little piece that connects on there in its place, and then a little removable missile, which is really cool. And yeah, I think it works super well. I actually have the original Moonrock that I can show them off with. I don't have a ton of these original MicroMasters, so I don't have you know, comparisons for all of these guys. But in the case of Moonrock, I actually do have him. So yeah, there's what they look like together. Unfortunately, it's a different connection system, so you can't just like hook up these guys to the old MicroMasters. But it's size-wise, it kind of works together. So it's kind of cute there. But yeah, there they are together. I guess we'll get into transforming them first, since we're on the subject here. I'll just go real quick with the transformations because they're all relatively basic, and if you have any of the other versions of these characters, it's exactly the same. It's going to be a long video, but I'll still show up step by step, just a little bit faster. So first, with Moonrock here, you start by untabbing the arms and not ripping them off the ball joints. Not a great start there to the transformation, but yeah, just untabbing the arms and moving them out to the side. They're on these little, basically, not double hinge sections, but it's a ball joint and then a hinge, so you can kind of just pull the shoulder line down. The transformation wants you to turn the head around too, but they're so hard to get a grip on, and it's not really worth it because they're not visible in alt mode, so because they're like facing the ground. So I just leave the heads around, but and then you take the legs, fold them around at the knee, split them, and then take these sections here and fold them down. And then if you have the peg out for combining them, you just fold that to the back. And there you have Moonrock, looking great. And for Missile Master, you take the back section here, rotate it down. Those will be his legs. You can separate it, and then you untab the arms. And again, similarly on that little hinge and ball joint procedure, bring that down, and there you have him in his robot mode, also looking quite good. We'll put those guys off to the side for now. Next, we will look at Fuser and Blastmaster. Again, just the same as the old mold. You just separate them. With Fuser here, you take this section here and fold it up and tab it in. You take the bottom section here, fold it down at the knees, and then rotate it around, and then you can separate the legs here. You take this section with the nose cone, fold that back, which allows you to fold the arms out. Again, they're also on that kind of similar ball joint and swivel hinge dealy going on there, and then you fold the cockpit or the nose cone into the back there, and there you have Fuser. And then Blastmaster, unfold the wings here just a bit for now. Untab the arms from the side here. They tab into the hips there, which allows you to then rotate the legs out, and they'll kind of automatically separate, but you do separate them. Fold this little peg down here, and then you can kind of get this panel around to flip his head around. Fold that peg right up to sit on the chest, and then take the back fin here and fold it to the back. And you're supposed to take the wings and fold them all the way back, but he just absolutely cannot in any universe stand like that. So what I generally do is I just kind of keep him out to the side. It's a little awkward, but I'd prefer him be able to stand up than, you know, have the wings folded as far back as they go. It's yeah. I mean, I don't think I ever reviewed these guys originally, but it's the same holdover with that mold is not fantastic, but yeah, they look good together. Now let's move over to Ironworks. Well, we'll take this section off first. Then Ironworks, again, you just separate all of the pieces. You don't have to separate all of them. Some of them stay in the same place, but you know, it's these guys are huge part formers. So if that's something that bothers you, then yeah, I mean, these sets might put you off. I don't really mind it since it's like built into the sort of mechanics of these guys. Like it's what they're designed to be. It's not just like a cheat or anything. But yeah, when you take this section, fold the hip pieces down, fold this peg in, flip the head up till it clicks in place, and rotate it around. Then tab that together. It just kind of pegs into the back there. Take these big chunky sections and then fold out the thighs and then plug them in. Take this arm here, rotate it so the elbow is pointing forward, and fold that peg down and peg that in just like that. Take this little platform here, unfold that, and then this peg will peg into the other shoulder. Take this panel and it just goes on back here, at least base-wise, in the kind of default mode. And then you can do whatever you want with these. They want you to like plug it in like that to the shoulder. Personally, how I choose to do it is this one pointing down like that and this one pointing up over here on that shoulder. I just think that looks a little bit better. Now, these guys, the instructions just transform them to be in their base robot modes, just exactly how Ironworks and Airwave were. And they don't have any sort of direction for where this should go. Now, this section still splits apart, just like it did in with Double Dealer. And personally, I think it's better just to differentiate their robot modes a little bit and have a place to put these. I give this one to Over Air and this one to Ironworks. So to store it, what I do is take off the back panel here and then use this peg hole and just peg it into one of these sections here, and then take the back panel and then use the other peg hole and just put it over. So it's kind of offset, but I think that looks pretty cool as a robot mode design, and it definitely fits with his aesthetic. So yeah, there we have Ironworks, or Moon Raider as I like to call him. And then with Over Air, of course, separate separate. Take these long sections here, fold them up. Those will be his lower legs. You take this section here, untab it from the central piece there, and rotate them around. And there you have his lower body. Fold the peg up, flip out his head, rotate it around, peg that in. This arm just pegs onto the side there. And then this one, you want to rotate it around so the elbow is pointing forward. And then again, this is with these weapons pegged in, this is pretty much how they want you to have Over Air. There's a few different things you could do with this. It doesn't store quite as elegantly as it does on Ironworks. One thing you could do is just peg it onto his shoulder up here. That doesn't look terrible, but it kind of like gets it in the way of his head in sort of a ridiculous way. Personally, what I choose to do is take this piece off, peg it onto the arm here, kind of like an arm cannon, and then take this piece, which doesn't fit there anymore, and just peg it onto the top here. I think that looks kind of cool. Again, it's not quite as an elegant solution as the other guy, and he can't, unless he's bending his elbow, he kind of can't use his shoulder joint, which is a little awkward. But anyway, there they are. I'll bring them all in again just to show them off, the full set there. And they're a good looking team, I think. I'll show them off with, here we have the original Ironworks. Here, well, just, you know what, let's do them one at a time. Here we have the new Botropolis Ironworks with the original Ironworks, and of course the grease paint Generation Selects repaint. And yeah, they're a good looking bunch. It's a nice mold to have 3 times, especially since they have that sort of interconnectivity. And yeah, he's got a lot of nice little painted details that show up on the top here. I mean, it's a little bit more for base mode, but definitely nice to differentiate them. And then here we have Over Air with Airwave and Hothouse, the Generation Selects Hothouse. And yeah, they look good together as well. So yeah, we kind of end up a total with 4 Autobots and 2 Decepticons, which is all right. It would have been kind of nice to have them be even, but doesn't really matter. Or even better yet, have like actual different molds for Hothouse and Grease Pit instead of just reusing Airwave and Ironworks. But either way, that has nothing to do with this set. I wouldn't expect them to make new molds for that. But yeah, there they are. Again, here are Fuser and Blastmaster, or Phaser and Blastmaster, with their original counterparts here. Here are the 2 Fusers or Phasers, or and like you can especially see it in if you look at the original Stormjet robot mode. That's really what the color scheme is for this guy, which is why I chose him to be Stormjet and the other one to be Raker. But yeah, they look good together. Definitely different color schemes here, to even though they're notionally the same guy. Both have their little guns in hand there. And then here are the 2 Blastmasters, or Raker and Blastmaster, as I like to call them, but definitely both supposed to be Blastmaster. But yeah, nice different color scheme there. I really like the red, white, and black. It's not quite the same white. Like these guys are more of like a pure white, and these guys are more of an off-white, but it's definitely a really nice color scheme. And then here we have Missile Master and Moonrock again. Here they are with the original Direct Hit and Power Punch. So here we have the 2 guys here. Same exact mold, no new head sculpt or anything like that, unfortunately. But, you know, since they're such little guys, I don't think it matters so much. And then here, Moonrock is again with the original G1 Moonrock. So you can see kind of where the paint scheme came from there. He could have used maybe blue hips like the face, but you know, they're kind of going for a more darker color scheme, and I can see how the baby blue, especially since it doesn't exist anywhere else on any of these other guys, it might have stuck out a little bit. So I'm all right with it being the darker gray instead. But yeah, and here we have Power Punch and the new Missile Master, and yeah, same mold aside from the back piece here. You can actually take the missile off, and this little tab up here is fitted to sit in these ports. I think that looks a little ridiculous, so I just keep it on his back, but that certainly is an option. But also, you know, you can peg it onto other, you know, any of the other Siege or Earthrise weapon ports. It's fitted for that. But yeah, I just generally keep it on the back here. All right, let's go through some articulation. We'll start off with Ironworks. Again, the same exact articulation as the original Ironworks. Got head on a ball joint here. The shoulders are just pegged in, so you know they get full rotation. Then they also have a hinge joint going out, and the shoulder pad can also adjust. Got this elbow goes about almost exact 90, and then this one, since it folds into that platform, can fold all the way up, which is nice. Got bicep rotation on both arms here, and then the hook hand actually just pegs on, so that has a wrist rotation, but none for the solid arm there. He has a waist swivel, but because of the way it connects, it only just like moves that much. It's kind of a cheat. It's connected through a little hinge on the back rather than actually being a waist swivel proper, but still works relatively well. And then universal joints at the hips here. Let's put that off to the side. Knees go pretty much all the way up just because of how they fold into the legs for transformation. And then again, because they're pegged on, you got a thigh swivel there. And then the feet also have that ankle tilt. Now with Over Air, again, just like the original Hothouse and Airwave, head is on a swivel here. It can also rotate up a bit just because of transformation. The arms, again, just pegged onto the side here. This arm, you can kind of fold this flap up, and that's how it moves out to the side. This one, well, this piece is not attached, can just rotate out like that. They both have bicep swivels and about the same 90-degree elbow bend. Again, just like with Ironworks, this piece is just pegged on, so that has a swivel, although it's a, you know, it's a cylindrical piece, so I don't know what swiveling it really accomplishes, but you know, you can. Whereas this fist is locked in place. He has a proper waist rotation, although it is a little high, but you know, he's a robot, it's fine. Universal hip joints, thigh swivel, bend at the knee here, and then it also has an extra swivel at the knee just because of how that just pegs on, and then also has ankle tilt. So yeah, pretty articulated guys there. For Fuser, that's the original one. I mean, it's the same. I could show you it off there, but this is this is the new guy. Ball joints at the shoulders, and then he also has, you know, that little joint there, so you can kind of adjust it. No elbows. Yeah, he doesn't have a head. I don't think. Well, he has got a head. He doesn't have any head rotation. He's got a. He does have a waist swivel, but it kind of locks in place for transformation. So if you had this section folded up, then you can kind of have it, but you know, then you'd be untransforming him a little bit. He's got ball joints at the hips, knees bend. You know, I mean, they're a little ridiculous just because of the proportions of the calves compared to the upper legs. But yeah, he's got knee joints, and yep, that's about it. Blastmaster, ball joints at the shoulders. Nothing at the head, no waist. The wings you can kind of adjust, although, you know, you kind of have to have them out like this so he can stand. He's got hip ball joints and then full deep knee bends, although, again, looks a little weird just because of how it works for transformation, how deep, how like low the knee joint is. But, you know, they're little guys. You're not getting a ton of poses out of them anyway. Whew. All right, on to Moonrock. Moonrock, ball joints to the shoulders, also has that secondary little joint, so you can kind of bring it up over his head. He does have a swivel at the head. It's really, really tight on these guys, so I'm not going to bother, but it does rotate all the way around. No waist, ball joints at the hips, ball joints at the knees, and yeah, it's a little bit more believable with the knee joint there. At least it's actually positioned at the knee, even though he's got these big clompers for feet. And then last but not least, Missile Master, ball joints at the shoulders, same thing. You know, it's got that little joint to move it up and down, although this piece kind of gets in the way. His head can rotate. They also want you to do that for transformation, but you just can't get fingers in there to actually rotate it. Like you'd have to like get pliers in there, which would mess up the paint, and there's really no reason to rotate it. And then also no waist. He's got ball joints at the hips and just a hinge for the knee there. And yeah, that is all of them. I'll bring them back on here again to show them off with some other guys here. Get their missile or rocket, I guess, accoutrement back on. But yeah, I mean, overall, this is a really neat set. I mean, I guess I'm really just bringing them back on here to show them off with show them off again with Countdown, since he's kind of the one that's supposed to accompany them, I guess. So we're missing a guy. Oh no, we're not. There he is. But yeah, here they are with Countdown. I mean, he doesn't really have, I guess, any real business being with the Micromasters of the set, and the original Rocket Base never had any bigger robot modes, but yeah, I mean, he fits with the whole aesthetic of the team. And then why not? We'll bring in the original Fuser and Blastmaster, or, you know, Phaser and Blastmaster, since these guys really are supposed to be on a team with Moonrock and Missile Master. It's too bad, because it doesn't seem like they're doing any other Micromasters, so we're probably not going to get a... I believe it was Heave and Barrage were the other two Astro Squad guys that turned into kind of like a little like Mars rover type vehicle. So they, unfortunately, we're probably not going to complete the set of all six of them, but it's nice to have Missile Master and Moonrock here. But yeah, it's a pretty good set. I'm going to transition now to showing off some of the other bases that I've kind of made up for them, which I feel like work a little bit better towards actually looking like the original rocket base. I'm not going to bother showing off the transformation just because we're going a ways here, so I feel like just showing off, cutting to them will be a little bit cleaner. But yeah, I'll get to that now. All right, here we have my sort of first fan base mode. This is meant to, I'll put an image up on the screen, which I guess I don't have to say that to you because I don't have to narrate that because I've probably just done it in editing, so you can just see it. But I'll put an image up to show what I'm kind of trying to homage here. The original rocket base had two sort of modes, a big like rocket launch platform and then the actual base mode. And this is about the, with some liberties taken, the closest approximation of that base mode that I could get. And I'm pretty satisfied with it. The main thing that I was trying to get was, the rocket itself separated, because like that's how it was in the actual, well, I mean, it kind of folded up open, but rather than separated, but it had this section kind of off to the side, which I feel like was one of the big sort of distinguishing features of it. But yeah, here they are with Countdown, and then we'll get to the other one. And then here we are with my take on the original sort of rocket launch platform here. It's of course too tall for my recording setup, but it's the base of it here is very much just the original sort of transport mode for over air / airwave, and then kind of making most of Ironworks into this launch platform here for the rocket itself to attach onto. This one I had a lot of struggles with. There's some pieces that don't really have a neat place to sit. Like this panel here is just kind of pegged onto the side. I really wish that I could I could clip it in here, but then the clip of the rocket mode actually gets in the way and won't peg in there, which is kind of a huge bummer. I tried to take out the screws and just like remove that clip just because it's not, it's just a holdover from the double dealer mode. It's not necessary in any of the modes here. But unfortunately, there's more than just the screws that are holding this particular piece together. It's like latched in places. It might be possible, but I don't really want to risk breaking it. It's not really that big a deal, but it's this one was quite a challenge to come up with. I went through a lot of different iterations, and this is the one I think is probably the best version of it. It's not perfect, but it's what I'm going with. And yeah, there they are with Countdown there. But yeah, if you enjoyed this rather lengthy video, usually my videos are not this long, I promise. Make sure to leave a like and consider subscribing to the channel. I do BotBots reviews, which are, wow, a real fraction of the length of this video on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and then other reviews of just other Transformers related stuff, usually on Sundays. I've been doing the Beast Wars McDonald's figures, which are also much shorter videos, and I'll be going back to that for next Sunday. But yeah, for now, this is a really cool set. If you have the chance to get your hands on one, it definitely homages that original, even without these fan modes, it definitely homages that original rocket base that came with Countdown very well. And I do really like of course, the MicroMasters that come with it. Especially these guys are, kind of the one of the bigger selling points for this set for me, because I really like Moonrock and Missile Master, especially since I had a G1 Moonrock. Wish I could get a G1 Missile Master, but I'm having a hard time finding them. But I could kind of give or take Fuser and Blastmaster. This mold, even in the original one, I'm not totally thrilled with it. The space shuttle mode itself is great, but the robot modes are just kind of eh. But the new color scheme does look good, even if I'm not like overly familiar with what it was homaging. I mean, I am now after doing the research, but it is pretty interesting. I like the research side of it, but yeah, no, it's a really good set, and I would definitely recommend it. But yeah, here we have Transformers War for Cybertron, Galactic Odyssey Collection, Botropolis Rescue Mission. Very long title there.